Now, we all know how great this Pennine landscape is, but isn't it about time the rest of the country did too? The South Pennines, which straddle Yorkshire and Lancashire, have never been designated a national park or an area of outstanding natural beauty. We sent explorer Paul Rose to find out why.
We rightly celebrate our national parks as areas of beauty and splendour. They're the places that really do make Britain great. But the South Pennines, the land that inspired the Brontes and Ted Hughes, seems to have been forgotten.
So I'm going to take a journey across this rugged landscape to see why many people are saying we need to look at this part of the north with a fresh pair of eyes.
The South Pennines stretches from Skipton in the north to Oldham in the south and takes in the wild moors of East Lancashire and deep valleys around Huddersfield. It's certainly a huge and diverse part of the country, and it's one that people are really passionate about.
I think people feel that as soon as they get on a pony and as soon as they're riding out and you're in this wonderful landscape, you just forget everything else. You know, all your worries disappear.
From her farm high above Rossendale, Chris Thomas runs a pack horse trekking business, using the old industrial trails that were once the lifeblood of the land.
It's a beautiful landscape, but it's also got a sense of ruggedness and hardship about it. It can't be easy working up here.
No, it is a hard landscape to work in, but the fact that it is a real landscape, a rugged landscape, a working landscape, is part of the attraction. You don't feel you're going to somewhere that's been put aside and preserved. You feel that it's actually still a work in progress.
Today, we take our national parks for granted, but it's not that long ago that the idea of setting up areas for the masses to enjoy felt revolutionary.
And here's a flavour of the argument. In the 1930s, this film was shown in cinemas to make the case that the countryside is for everybody, not just the landed gentry. And it made sense. Between the wars, life in Britain was changing fast and people needed a break from their hectic lives.
How different to the grand open country, with the fresh, clean air coming across the hills and dales, and the rivers and lakes, with their quiet, still waters, offering their havens of peace to all.
But this was heady, even dangerous stuff. The very thought of letting people like me loose in the countryside.
In the late 1940s, when the new national parks were being considered, the South, or Industrial Pennines as it was then known, was on the shortlist. But back then, this wasn't just a potential playground. It was still the engine room of the empire, and the factories were belching monsters.
Well, the air was full of smoke, and what didn't come from here came from Manchester and Bolton and Bury and Burnley and Liverpool. The air here was black with soot and sulphur. The rivers ran different colours according to the types of dyestuffs that were being turned out of the local mills, and you know, it was really, looking back on it, pretty disgusting.
The South Pennines struggled to shake off its industrial past and was never selected to be a national park. But the area is much cleaner now and refuses to be ignored. Moves are now afoot to declare the South Pennines as a self-styled regional park, with its industrial heritage to the fore.
Take her in.
Yes, hello.
Hey, I'm Paul.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too.
The very best way of discovering the Pennines, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm taken to the railways to check out how the Industrial Revolution shaped the landscape.
The early industry grew up around the pack horse routes.
Yeah.
And then later on they had the early horse-drawn railways, which all developed around taking minerals out to the new canal networks.
By the time steam arrived, things had moved on, leaving us with industrial relics we still use today. The Denbigh to Penistone Railway might be a commuter line now, but 150 years ago it threw up great challenges to the engineers charged with crossing the deep valleys between the Pennine Hills.
I think between Huddersfield and Penistone the line rises 367 feet in not very many miles, so it was a real engineering feat to get it built.
It was a marvel of the Victorian age, leaving us with the Penistone Viaduct and its 29 arches, 5 more than its celebrated brother at Ribblehead.
It dominates the valley.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. We see it as beautiful now.
Yes, we do.
I don't know whether they'd have seen it as beautiful then, but you know, people come for miles to see these viaducts.
It is really grand up here, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Even today, this is great. 150 years old.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next station is Penniston. Penniston, your next station stop.
Oh, hey, this is our stop.
But the railways and their spectacular viaducts aren't the only defining legacy of the industrial age. There are others, which many feel are equal in their grandeur.
I spend a lot of time underground caving, but I've never been in a canal tunnel before.
This is the Stanage Tunnel at Marsden. It's more than 3 miles long, runs right under the Pennines, and is the longest and highest canal tunnel in the UK.
There's a great story of when they built this. They dug from each side, and without the benefit of laser-guided drills, they missed each other 38 feet, which isn't very far in over 3 miles through the whole fell side, but yeah, they actually missed each other. Can you imagine? So actually took them 16 years to build this.
It may be more than 200 years old, but it has plenty of modern-day fans like tour guide Michaela Morton.
As we entered, I felt really uplifted. It's a bit like coming into a cathedral or arriving in the pyramids or any other great iconic feature in the world.
Visually, I find it very, very appealing. I think it's atmospheric, I love the smell, but to actually think of all the people that work down here, and not just building the tunnel and you know, blasting through the rock, but also the people that worked on this tunnel as well, you know, in order for it to function.
Yes.
So because it's hidden and it's underground and it's a little bit of a hidden gem, I think that's what makes it even more special. You feel quite honoured to be part of it.
Of course, there is one thing that defines the Pennines and has shaped the very landscape itself, and that's water. And when it rains, you feel every drop.
I think we are coming off the hill at just the perfect time because the rain's getting a bit more significant now.
I'm ending my journey at Studley Pike near Todmorden with someone who believes the South Pennines offers something rather unique.
Within 5 kilometres of where we are now, there are over 1,000 listed buildings, scheduled monuments.
Wow.
We can't see many of them because they're down in the valleys, but actually that really gives you an indication of how people have lived here, have earned their living here. I mean, that little settlement there, you've got really the buildings that characterise this South Pennines area for me. Non-conformist chapels, textile mill in the background, weavers' cottages. Those windows upstairs, they aren't bedrooms, they were built as workshops where the weaver would sit all day. And
that's
so
why the windows
that's
are so
why the
big.
windows are so big. And so just in this little landscape, as we come down the valley, you're beginning to see the characteristic building types that really make this place a kind of common landscape. Even in the rain, it makes me happy to be here. It's
Yes.
a joyous place.
Yes, it's got some power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Come, let's get dry.
So what now for the South Pennines? And is it possible to unite Yorkshire and Lancashire under one banner?
What we really want to do is simply be recognised as a landscape that is as important as the Cotswolds or any other part of the country. And the people in the Cotswolds don't feel they've lost an identity because that is a part of the world people instinctively know. And neither will people lose any sense of pride or identity up here if we were to rally around that idea of a regional park in the South Pennines.
You might argue, what's in a title? Does it matter what we call a place as long as we celebrate it? Well, I for one think the South Pennines, with whatever tag we eventually give it, should be shouted about from every hilltop.